Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your mayor. I've been interviewing people that want to run and help Abbotsford now and want to put it under forensic audits as they see what happened. I was asked yesterday after my podcast on Cooper's Farm of why I'm adamant about getting rid of the Abbotsford police. You can't keep them. The Abbotsford police covered an attempted murder. They also threatened. Keelan Olenoff said Henry had break-ins at his house. Keelan Olenoff made a threat to drop a lawsuit in a video and me to go upstairs with Abbotsford residents behind everybody's back and cut the deal. Abbotsford police investigators believe the shield in their position will cover and help them stay in there for Henry. Henry was running the whole town with his friends. The Abbotsford police investigators know, like all other law enforcement, what Henry's son was doing was illegal. What council was doing was illegal. What Vicky Hopes did to block an election was to help Henry. Abbotsford police veterans and upstairs management believe that if the sympathy of police will apply to all other police and we'll get help in here. These men were in organized crime on families. That is true. That's what took place. Especially leaving somebody for dead and not investigating. As the RCMP made it clear, and you could see videos, I stood in front with Abbotsford witnesses, in front of Mike Sir, the chief. He figured his position and his ties to Henry would cover it. Then he fled. I want his men to see, no matter what position you are, the law will punish you. I want you to see that you're dragged. To the Abbotsford police, the whole community is now backing and helping. It's time to bring the RCMP in, and we're going to go after them land deals that cause threats. Before I begin today's story, this is a note from the city, what you get in your mail when you get to speak about a development. This is what came onto Cooper's Farm, and they were blocked when Henry took it off that schedule. And Darren Brown showed me. Now, Darren Brown was Henry's son, okay? And he was the economic officer in the city. He showed me how Les Barkman was the only councillor going against them all, and Dave Lowens and Abbotsford First were in his house collaborating on decisions. Let me give you today's broadcast. Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada. Henry tried everything, and everybody could see as he ditched effort with Ed Fast to get Mike de Jong in, and everybody knows, to humiliate Suk Mangel and get everybody in behind him to get him in to own Abbotsford and control and keep the RCMP out and save his way of running a dictatorship in Abbotsford. What are I doing? I'm in behind the Abbotsford Hills up here where the oil pits are, but I'm in behind the Augustine billionaire's place, where Henry shut him down with Abbotsford First and then wanted to make sure that the Cacaro Ranch went in to Ron Funk's hands for the 400 acres to Lobby Mountain so he would get the billionaire sales. All for money, a fight. But how many bodies are laying in our graves because of these fights? How many crimes and victims there is that the Abbotsford police went after in uniform covered it? I believe there's quite a few. Olenoff made that clear. Gertie Purdy made it clear. Shit, there's such a riot in Los Angeles, you would figure that Gertie Purdy is the first guy to go down there and help. He'll save them riots. He'll allow Henry to drive over people like he did here. Gertie Purdy will do that. You could see the Abbotsford police, no position or uniform should hold you and allow you to cover up what you covered up. I'm adamant about removing them. I have no respect for them because these were families and seniors. I'm adamant about kicking their asses. The task force that ringed Mogil, that was bad on the South Asians. We got to call that out on all Canadians. That was just garbage for Henry and his Abbotsford police to own the town. The 71 million, their little uniforms, and look at the flashers, the flashers. Too many people are getting private police to own towns to threaten. We got to start standing up and calling that out. As your mayor, I'm going to open all these doors because Darren Brown showed me. This is Abbotsford gravel pits. Darren Brown showed me that his dad was tied to him, and I believe he told me, if I'm not too sure, I'll mention this guy's name. He said Murray Blackham, and there was other people, Kish, old man Kish from Kish Equipment that bought Massey Ferguson. They were all in the gravel business, and he said Darren told me that at the time that it was all up here when they were graveling and them knocking the mountains down. Henry brought his Mennonite friends in. He owned the machineries. He was pushing the Dutch and the other people out and undermining them with his dad and his brother Irwin. He showed me the whole story. He said that this is what they were doing when they were first in Abbotsford. Henry was in this business. So what are I doing here? Let me tell you. When Brad Viss wrote his story the other day and flew to Ottawa and said, Mr. Speaker, you know the infrastructure of Abbotsford, when is the federal government going to cut some money loose so we can get the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker? This is Brad Viss, the Conservative of Mission Abbotsford writing, Mr. Speaker. What Brad Viss failed to do, and the farmers failed, is a person that advocates would say Archway Community Services is wrong of what it did to the farmers, Brad Viss should have said. And he should have said, Mr. Speaker, when is Mark Carney going to send the RCMP in to end the mob in Abbotsford, in the elite establishment, and investigate jobs and the frauds out of the federal and provincial government's hands? Now, don't forget, Henry screwed Pamela Alexis up when she was running, so I don't think David Eby's going to help him. So he can't phone there and say, Eby, please, Eby, please, Eby, please, Eby, I'm bailing you out. What you should do, and what I would do as mayor, I get all the farmers to the Abbotsford airport, and I get them on them big jets, and I fly them into Ottawa, like you seen when the Modi protests came, like you seen the trucker convoy, and I bring them there and say, these are the people that supply our food, our ag, and they're our farmers. We need to help them, and we need to show that we're behind them for all Canadians. Brad Viss can't do that weak little piece of shit. Henry wrote his speech again and told him to go in there, what it's for. Darren Brown showed me that these gravel pits that Henry was tied to would lobby trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in gravel sales for the highway, the dikes, raising the dikes and everything. And you can see now, Henry's only got Brad, Mr. Speaker, because no Mike DeYoung, because Suk Mangill knew he ain't going to be the guinea pig, and that's why Ed was behind Mike. Now, that is how you get the information, is from Henry's own son to Chief Watts. I'm adamant of becoming the mayor and making it clear that I'm going to go through your top investigators, officers' books, their financials, and their everything. An open attempted murder in broad daylight would send officers investigating. They didn't. They were worrying about saving the mob leader, Henry Braun, and what was going to come to them, and they're in panic mode. That uniform, Watts, ain't going to save you. The sympathy of playing on other police forces ain't going to save you. Oh, we're all officers, we're all supposed to. You attacked families, you trade jobs, you lifted decisions, and for God's sakes, the Mackenzie Bog people were deadly sick. As city officials were benefiting out the back door, and the illegal substance still continues because it's a group tied to the establishment. What that peat sales brings hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Now, the law is going to take its place, and the first thing we're going to go after is Henry Brown. I knew to send it off the rails, I told the RCMP, is called a financial audit on all Henry's business ties, who he's tied to and everything. Now I want to leave you with this little story. I showed you a video that Henry lived on Downs when he took the Abbotsford councils, called Abbotsford First, in his house to win the Cooper's decision and say this is what we're going to do on Monday night, which is called collaborating. Darren Brown showed you right from his house. If you look at a man when he's in stress, you look at him. And you look at a man when he's in sympathy, if you look at the Abbotsford police as sympathy, oh, gangs, 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 drinking and driving, overweight trucks, get our perfume and our uniforms on, saving the company. No morals and no ethics, a ditch effort. Oh, can we get the RCP of Mission and Langley to work with us? Show us that we're still buddies in the team. That's a ditch effort. Now you go look at Henry. and how he's worrying. His neighbor said this the other day. He had his big gooseneck hooked to his GMC truck, and he said he saw him running in and out of his house. He said, we were worried about the old man. I said, why are you worried? He said, well, he wasn't loading cattle. We saw him hauling boxes. What do you think he's doing? Moving to go up the interior? I said, probably. He's cleaning out all his office. If the RCMP raid it and take his files, they're going to find out who all his ties were and who his dust was, because he had to submit bills to Revenue Canada, and every dollar matters to that piece of garbage. So that would link his files. So he's emptying his files out as fast as he can. That's what he's doing. That's what Henry Brown's doing, more than likely, because you don't load a gooseneck horse trail with special files. And then you can go up now and you can have a look. Henry Brown was a man about keeping up the look, the image. He don't cut his grass no more. His neighbor said weeds are growing everywhere. He don't rototill with the tractor no more. Bushes are everywhere. Why? 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 Criminology will teach you, and the study of it will teach you the man's in stress. The man can't focus. The man's worried of every day of helping Ross. He's lost his connections. Ed's no longer in power. Mike's no longer in power. Simon Gibson told me, the city council, I think everybody's phone's tapped with these threats going on. I would suspect when the Abbotsford police, Keelan Olenoff threatened and Gertie Purdy covered an attempted murder and there was no investigations, my phone got smashed, my election and everything else, I would expect that Simon Gibson hit the nail right on the head. Everybody's phone's tapped. Abbotsford residents deserve, the taxpayers and residents deserve their city, deserve the right to stand in their city, deserve a say in the city, and deserve not to be threatened and be bullied for other people's way of lives. Abbotsford police failed that. That is why I'm adamant that guys like Dix and Kern are tremendous people, but the RCMP have to come in under my leadership, or I push harder to the federal government and David Eby and get the RCMP in, and we're going to go after this. We're going to set this thing, and we're going to get them monies back. We're going to go after Archway I showed you. We're going to open that city back up so nobody's threatened. We're going to make sure that little kids in Yale Secondary are not told that they're black and they can't play in the parks. We're going to make sure our officers are not punching people in the face. We're going to make sure Dodge Chargers are not raced. We're going to make sure that officers that lie, there's break-ins and money at Henry's safe, are kicked off our force and they're discredited and gone and humiliated around the world and never allowed to sit again in position. But we're going to make sure the uniform does not allow you to sit in power and manipulate and threats and bully. But we're going to clean up the Abbotsford's task force. It's long overdue. These boys are hanging on, and every chance they see me, they only can take an office phone call from the mob. Yes, mob boss, what do you want me to do? Oh, the heat's on. You need to beat them up more. Let me explain, Abbotsford residents. This shitbox mayor that tried to get on the world stage that Trudeau saw right through him. And I want to just echo this. Abbotsford residents, conservatives, always ask me to give a yell out to Terry Beach of Burnaby, the MP that helped Abbotsford residents overhead fast. Give him a yell out. Terry Beach didn't care about Liberals or Conservatives. He said, what the hell's happening to them residents in Abbotsford? Why is this being blocked? That's the Liberal MP of Burnaby, Terry Beach. So I'll give you a yell out to doing the right thing. Now, this man stood on stage and he called out Trudeau. He wanted that money with other mayors. You saw him. Poor Rossi. I wonder if he cut Darren Brown out of his will and he put Ross Siemens in. Oh, baby Ross, I'll adopt you. I'll adopt you, Rossi. Let me tell you, today, you see where the bears shit in the buckwheat, it's called in our world. You don't see Henry taking a picture in front of the Abbotsford police, do you, ladies and gentlemen? You don't see that scuffbag, dirtball, the hero of us, the leader of us, the boys hero, the task force hero, the man who led the team, Mike Sir, do ya? You don't see old Bobby Rich. Remember Bob Rich, the former police chief, when knew that there was drugs and alcohol in the back of King Haven's tank under Milt Walker, Jerry Palmer. Bob Rich said, hey, Henry, you're covering that for grants, and Bob fled. We need the RCMP. These threats on my life, Abbotsford residents' lives, were done for these multi-trillion-dollar jobs. I believe that Henry's put the Abbotsford police officers in danger. If not, in my opinion, most of them probably are dying under Henry's watch. I'm a small fish for my community. There's bigger players than me and Abbotsford residents over our neglect on our homes. They would not care about the Abbotsford police when you're coming down this self-gain rule. Henry needed that police force for his muscle over all the other developers, and I saw that. Darren Brown showed it. He needed that police force that he could buy leniency through the press and everybody else and his two politicians as muscle for the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, his way of life. The Abbotsford police, men and women that worked there, even lost the common sense about law and believed what Henry was doing was the right thing. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I stand on the world stage with Abbotsford residents to say we are very thankful and proud of the mission men and women that work in the RCMP. When they turned this around, knowing Henry's son was in front of them, knowing the collaborating at council, seeing Vicky Hope's block, seeing it all, the attack on Mogel, one officer said like this: how long and how much has Henry paid the Abbotsford police? I'm live, ladies and gentlemen, here at the gravel pits. And I'd send this message right to Mark Carney, Brad Viss. This is what you were bellyaching about. And Carney knew when you didn't come there with the farmers. Oh, Henry wrote a speech for Brad. Brad's gonna go the same way as Ed and Mike. You can see it. The farmers don't got a good thing to say about Brad Viss. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.